I thought we were close, but when I confronted my best friend about their jealousy, I learned that there were things hidden beneath the surface that I never saw coming. Every second that passed felt like an eternity. As I waited for their response, I could feel the weight of their emotions pressing down on me. The tension was unbearable. I didn't know if I was going to break down or if my best friend would. Either way, something was about to give. What started as a whisper of jealousy turned into a full-blown storm of emotions. I had no idea how much this conversation would shake us both. The question felt like a dare, and when I finally asked it, the silence that followed felt like 1,000,000 pounds pressing down on my chest. There was no going back. Once I asked about the jealousy, I knew nothing would ever be the same between us again. I could see the jealousy creeping in, but I never expected it to take over like this. What followed was an emotional battle that left me speechless. I confronted them, heart pounding in my chest, wondering what would happen next. What followed was something I wasn't prepared to handle. The words were like a challenge, and when I asked, I felt a shift in the air. I had no idea what I was about to uncover. The question was out there, hanging in the air between us, and I could see their walls start to crumble as they faced the truth. My hands were shaking, but I had to know. I had to confront them, even if it meant everything would change in that moment. It wasn't just jealousy, it was something deeper, something more intense than I could ever have imagined, and it all came out the moment I asked. The intensity of that moment will stay with me forever. What I thought was a simple conversation turned into something that shattered the foundation of our friendship. I never thought I'd see my best friend like this. The anger, the hurt, the jealousy, it all came rushing out when I dared to ask the question. There was no turning back after I asked. The truth hit harder than I thought it would, and suddenly everything between us felt fragile. What happened when I asked that question? It was as if the universe paused, giving us both a chance to confront the raw emotions we had been hiding. I never expected a question to tear us apart, but the moment I asked about the jealousy, I could feel the tension in the air shift. The words I said echoed in the silence, and I could see everything change in their eyes. I had no idea how much was at stake in that moment. The intensity of the confrontation left me speechless. I didn't know how to handle the storm that was brewing between us, but I had no choice but to face it. I thought I knew my best friend, but when I confronted them about their jealousy, the truth was so much darker than I ever could have imagined. The silence hung between us like a loaded gun, and I knew that when I asked, I was crossing a line that would forever change our friendship. It was more than just jealousy. it was betrayal, and I had to ask. The response I got left me in shock and disbelief. The moment I asked, everything changed. The tension, the emotions, the jealousy, it all exploded in a way that I wasn't ready for. It was like pulling back a veil, revealing everything that had been hidden beneath the surface for far too long, and the truth was more painful than I could have imagined. I thought this conversation would bring us closer, but instead, it ripped open old wounds that neither of us were prepared to face. What began as a simple question turned into a battle of emotions, and I had no idea who would come out on top. It wasn't just about jealousy anymore. It was about trust, friendship, and everything that had been left unsaid between us. When I confronted them, I had no idea that the answer would shake me to my core. Everything I thought I knew was turned upside down in an instant. The room felt suffocating as their response hit me like a wave. I wasn't prepared for what I was about to hear, and neither were they. I thought we could talk through anything, but when I asked about the jealousy, I watched as the foundations of our friendship crumbled. Every word they spoke made my heart race faster, and suddenly I realized that I had crossed into dangerous territory. The air between us was charged with unspoken emotions. I thought I understood them completely, but the confession that followed my question shattered everything I thought I knew. When I asked, it was like opening a floodgate. Emotions rushed out that I had never seen before, and I was left trying to make sense of the chaos. The jealousy wasn't the only thing I uncovered. What I discovered in that moment changed everything: our friendship, our trust, and how we saw each other. Have you ever stared at someone and felt the weight of jealousy dripping from their every word? That's exactly what happened when I confronted my best friend about us. And let me tell you, it spiraled into something I never expected. In that moment, I could hear my heartbeat louder than the conversation. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, as I asked the question that changed everything. I was nervous, my hands shaking, but the truth had to come out. What unfolded in those few minutes shocked me more than anything else. As I looked into their eyes, I could see it. The jealousy was bubbling under the surface, and I had to ask, what's really going on between us? I never imagined that one simple question could create a storm between us, but when I asked, I saw their face twist in a way that left me breathless. The tension in the room was palpable. What was once an innocent friendship had turned into a battlefield of words, emotions, and raw truths. I thought I knew my best friend inside and out, But the moment I confronted them, I realized there were layers I had never seen before. What started as a simple conversation quickly escalated into an emotional roller coaster. Each word, each glance left me more unsettled than the last. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I had to ask, "Why are you so jealous?" But when the answer came, it was far from what I expected. It was like stepping into the eye of a storm, feeling both terrified and oddly exhilarated at the same time. But nothing prepared me for what came next. I took a deep breath and asked the one question that had been eating at me. What happened after that question changed everything I knew about my best friend? Every fiber of my being screamed not to ask, but curiosity got the best of me. The silence between us was deafening, and I knew that nothing would be the same after this. We were so close, almost inseparable. But when I confronted my best friend about what was really going on, everything I thought I knew was shattered. With each passing second, the air between us grew heavier. I could feel the jealousy radiating off of them, but I had to know the truth. The words were out before I could stop them, but as they left my lips, I realized they were more than just words. They were a confession that would tear everything apart. What started as a light-hearted chat turned into a confrontation that I'll never forget. The raw emotion that filled the room left me speechless. I never expected my question to change the entire dynamic of our friendship, but the moment I asked, I felt like I had opened Pandora's box. The silence was unbearable, thick with the weight of unspoken words. What followed was a confession that I never thought I'd hear. I had no idea what I was walking into, but when I asked my best friend about the jealousy, I was thrown into a whirlwind of emotions that I wasn't prepared for. Their eyes flickered with something darker than I had ever seen before. I knew I was treading on dangerous ground, but I couldn't back down now. It wasn't just jealousy, it was something much deeper, something that shook the very foundation of our friendship. What was supposed to be a simple conversation turned into a battle of emotions, and I was left reeling from what was said and what wasn't. I thought I was strong enough to handle anything, but nothing could prepare me for the truth that came rushing out when I confronted them. The air between us crackled with tension, like static before a storm. I knew this moment would change everything, but I had no idea how much. I never thought jealousy would be the thing that tore us apart, but as the conversation unfolded, I could feel the distance growing between us. I asked one simple question, and what followed was a flood of emotions that left me breathless. I had no idea what I was really asking for. It felt like the world stopped for a second as I looked into their eyes. There was so much I didn't know, and when the truth came, I was left in shock. In that moment, everything changed. What started as a harmless question spiraled into something far more intense than I could have ever imagined. The jealousy wasn't just something I noticed, it was something that had been festering, and the moment I confronted it, it all came pouring out. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I asked, but the rawness in their voice when they answered left me questioning everything. The intensity in their eyes spoke volumes before a single word was said. I knew this conversation wasn't going to end the way I thought it would. The silence between us was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I had to ask, but the answer would change everything about how I saw our friendship.